Have you ever looked at someone and thought, how can this person possibly think like that? You explain something clearly. They still don't understand. You ask someone to make a simple decision. They take forever. Someone else talks over everyone. Another person avoids conflict completely. Someone seems obsessed with being liked. And then you think, why am I surrounded by idiots? But what if they're not idiots? What if they're simply operating with a completely different personality, different priorities, different fears, and a completely different way of processing information? That's the central idea behind Thomas Erikson's Surrounded by Idiots. The book presents a simple 4-color model for understanding different behavioral styles. And today, we're going to use that model for something much more useful than labeling people. We're going to learn how to recognize different personalities, how to communicate with them, how to handle difficult conversations, and how to stop making the biggest mistake people make in relationships, assuming everyone thinks the way you do. And stay until the end, because the most interesting part isn't identifying other people, it's discovering which type you might be. If you enjoy practical psychology and want to understand yourself and other people better, subscribe to Rewire Your Brain. We break down ideas that can help you think differently and navigate life more intelligently. Let's begin. The biggest communication mistake. Imagine you're at work. You need something from a colleague. You walk over and say, "I need this report finished by Friday." Simple, direct, clear. But your colleague looks uncomfortable. They start asking questions. Why Friday? Is there a specific format? Who else needs it? You get frustrated. You think, why can't they just do what I asked? But now imagine the opposite. You need something from another colleague. You explain the entire background. You give them context. You explain why the project matters. And they interrupt you. Okay, just tell me what you need. Same situation. 2 completely different reactions. And here's the problem. We naturally communicate with other people the way we want to be communicated with. That's where conflict begins. The book's 4-color model gives us a simple framework for understanding these differences. The colors are red, yellow, green, blue. Let's break them down. Red, the driver. Red personalities are action-oriented. They want results. They like speed. They make decisions. They often say, "What's the goal? What needs to happen? When can we start?" Red personalities don't necessarily want a long explanation. They want the bottom line. Imagine you're explaining a new business idea to a red person. You spend 10 minutes explaining the background. They may eventually say, "Okay, so what do you want me to do?" To a red personality, unnecessary details can feel like wasted time. They may appear aggressive, impatient, competitive, or demanding. But there's another side. They're often willing to take responsibility. They're comfortable making decisions. And when everyone else is still discussing what to do, the red person may already be doing it. How to communicate with red. Be clear. Be brief. Focus on results. Don't bury the main point under 10 minutes of explanation. Instead of, "I've been thinking about this project, and there are several possibilities." Try, "We have 3 options. I recommend option 2, because it gets us the result fastest." Now you've got their attention. But here's the danger. If you're a red personality yourself, you may believe everyone who doesn't move quickly is incompetent. They're not necessarily incompetent. They may simply process information differently. And if you're watching this and you've ever been called too impatient, comment red below. Let's see how many people recognize themselves. Yellow, the influencer. Now imagine the complete opposite. Someone walks into a room and immediately starts talking. They know everyone. They tell stories. They get excited easily. They have ideas constantly. This is the yellow personality. Yellow people are often enthusiastic, social, optimistic, and expressive. They think out loud. They enjoy interaction. They may jump from one idea to another. And sometimes, they can be incredibly distracting. A yellow person might start a conversation about a project, then suddenly talk about a vacation, then tell you a funny story, and somehow 20 minutes later, you're still not sure what happened to the original conversation. But here's what makes them valuable. They can bring energy into a room. They can connect people. They can persuade. They can create excitement around an idea, and in situations where everyone else sees problems. The yellow personality may see possibilities. How to communicate with yellow. Don't make everything cold and purely transactional. Engage them. Let them talk. Show enthusiasm. Then bring the conversation back to the objective. For example, "That's a great idea. Let's write that down. Now, what should we actually do first?" You're giving them space without losing direction. And if you're yellow, here's your challenge. Finish what you start. Because having 10 brilliant ideas is useless if you never complete one. If you're naturally social, optimistic, and always have something to say, comment yellow. And if you know someone who can turn a 5-minute conversation into a 1-hour story, you probably already know who they are. Green, the stabilizer. Now let's meet the green personality. Green people often value peace, stability, security, and harmony. They don't necessarily want to be the loudest person in the room. They may listen more than they speak. They often dislike unnecessary conflict. And they may take longer to accept major changes. Imagine your company suddenly announces, "Starting tomorrow, everything is changing." The red person says, "Great, let's do it." The yellow person says, "This could be exciting." The green person may be thinking, "Wait, why are we changing everything?" And that doesn't necessarily mean they're resistant to success. They may simply need time to process change. Green personalities can be incredibly valuable because they often provide stability. They're the people who remember, "Hold on, what happens to the people affected by this?" They may be patient, reliable, supportive, and loyal, but their weakness can be avoiding difficult conversations. They may say, "It's fine," when it isn't fine. They may keep their frustration inside until eventually, it isn't inside anymore. How to communicate with green. Don't force immediate answers. Give them time. Explain why the change is happening. Ask how they feel. Create psychological safety. And if you're green, here's something important. Being peaceful doesn't mean avoiding every conflict. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is say, "I disagree." You don't have to become aggressive. You just have to become honest. If you're someone who hates unnecessary conflict and values peace, comment green. Blue, the analyst. Now we reach the blue personality. Blue people care about accuracy, facts, quality, structure, details. They want to understand how something works. If you tell a blue person, "Don't worry, it'll be fine," that probably won't satisfy them. They're thinking, "Why will it be fine?" They want evidence. They want the details. They want to know what could go wrong. They want to know what could go wrong. And here's where blue personalities can frustrate everyone else. They may take too long to make a decision. They may ask too many questions. They may notice problems nobody else noticed. But that's also their strength. While everyone else is excited about the idea, the blue person is asking, "Have we actually checked the numbers?" That question might feel annoying, until their concern saves everyone from a major mistake. How to communicate with blue. Bring facts. Be organized. Don't exaggerate. Give them time to analyze. And if you're blue, here's your challenge. Don't wait for perfect information before taking action. Sometimes you have 90% of the information you need. The remaining 10% may only appear after you begin. If you're the person who reads the instructions before touching anything, comment blue. The real secret people aren't just one color. Now here's where things get interesting. You might be thinking, "Okay, I'm definitely red," or "I'm obviously yellow." But human beings are more complicated than 4 boxes. You can have characteristics of multiple types. You can also behave differently depending on the situation. You might be red at work, green with your family, yellow with friends, and blue when making financial decisions. So don't use personality models as a way to say, "This is what you are." Use them as a way to ask, "What does this person need from me right now?" That's a much more powerful question. Why people drive you crazy. Here's one of the biggest lessons you can take from this model. Sometimes the trait that annoys you most about another person is simply the opposite of your own natural preference. A red person sees a green person and thinks, "Why are they so slow?" The green person sees the red person and thinks, "Why are they so aggressive?" The blue person sees the yellow person and thinks, "Why can't they stay focused?" The yellow person sees the blue person and thinks, "Why do they make everything so complicated?" And suddenly, everyone thinks everyone else is the problem. But nobody is necessarily the problem. They're simply optimizing for different things. Red wants results. Yellow wants connection and enthusiasm. Green wants stability and harmony. Blue wants accuracy and quality. Once you understand that, communication becomes much easier. How to use this in real life. Let's say you have a difficult conversation with someone. Before you speak, ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, what does this person care about? Results, relationships, security, accuracy. Number 2, how do they prefer information? Short and direct, energetic and conversational, calm and supportive, detailed and logical. Number 3, what does this person need from me? Maybe they need clarity, maybe reassurance, maybe evidence, maybe enthusiasm. This simple pause can completely change a conversation. Instead of asking, "Why don't they understand me?" you start asking, "How can I communicate in a way they understand?" That is a completely different mindset. The most powerful lesson. And here's the deeper lesson from Surrounded by Idiots. Communication isn't about proving that your way is correct. It's about creating understanding. Think about how many arguments you've had where both people were technically saying something reasonable, but neither person was listening. A red person says, "Let's just make a decision." A blue person says, "We need more information." The red person thinks, "You're wasting time." The blue person thinks, "You're being reckless." But both might actually be trying to protect the same goal. One wants progress. The other wants accuracy. The problem isn't always the goal. Sometimes it's the communication style. A simple challenge for today. Here's what I want you to do today. Pick one person who regularly frustrates you. Someone at work, a family member, a friend, someone you constantly misunderstand. Don't try to change them. Instead, observe them. Ask, are they primarily focused on results, connection, stability, details? Then change your communication, not their personality. If they're red, get to the point. If they're yellow, engage them. If they're green, give them reassurance and time. If they're blue, give them facts. Try this once. Then try it again. And notice what happens. Because sometimes the person you thought was difficult was simply being communicated with in the wrong language. The deeper lesson about people. And perhaps that's why the title Surrounded by Idiots is so clever. Because sometimes the idiot isn't the other person. Sometimes we're the idiot because we're assuming, if they were intelligent, they would think exactly like me. But intelligence doesn't guarantee identical behavior. 2 intelligent people can reach different conclusions. 2 good people can communicate badly. 2 people who care about each other can still misunderstand each other. And that's normal. The goal isn't to find people who think exactly like you. The goal is to become flexible enough to communicate with people who don't. Because the world isn't going to reorganize itself around your personality. Your workplace won't. Your family won't. Your customers won't. Your partner won't, and your audience definitely won't. The person who learns to adapt their communication gains a massive advantage. So remember the 4 colors: red action and results, yellow people and enthusiasm, green stability and harmony, blue facts and accuracy. But don't use these colors to judge people. Use them to understand people, because once you stop expecting everyone to think like you stop wasting energy asking, "Why are they like this?" And you start asking, "How do I work with this person?" That shift can improve your conversations, your relationships, your leadership, your career, and even the way you understand yourself. Because the ultimate communication skill isn't speaking louder. It isn't having the perfect vocabulary. It isn't winning every argument. It's the ability to enter someone else's world long enough to understand how they see yours. And when you learn that, you may discover something surprising. You're not actually surrounded by idiots. You're surrounded by people who see the world differently, and learning how to navigate those differences is a superpower. If this video made you recognize yourself or someone you know, comment your color below: red, yellow, green, or blue. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more practical lessons about psychology, communication, human behavior, and self-improvement, subscribe to Rewire Your Brain. Because the better you understand people, the better you understand the world. And the better you understand yourself. Rewire your thinking. Change your life.